Rather than treating other people like they're a bunch of turtles, why not realize that not everyone is an turtle like yourself and be nice to them? There's a saying, you catch more flies with honey than you do by gregging your Doucette.
What did he say?
Coach Greg, in today's video, Wes Wastson sides with Mike Van Wick and unleashes an attack at Jeff Nippard. In Wes Watson's opinion, Mike Van Wick went easy on Jeff Nippard. That Jeff Nippard, he had it coming and he should have ended things a lot more severely than he actually did. And so is anyone surprised by this? Wes Wastson is the epitome of a beta male. He pretends, he acts like he's tough. Oh, I was in prison for 10 years. And so he says, but was he really? And so imagine lying about having gone to prison in order to look tough. And all the while, we all know it, he uses and abuses performance-enhancing drugs so that the exterior shell that he presents to the world, that he can actually look tough. But deep down inside, this man, he's very insecure. Perhaps the world corrupted him. He went to jail and perhaps other men used this man, situationships and so on.
Yeah, boy.
Perhaps the only way he could get back at the world was to get out of jail and pick on people who are smaller than him. We've seen him have a temper tantrum against the gardener, who literally was hired to do his own job. Get that the f out of here. Would a real alpha freak out, go out and yell at a gardener for doing his job? And does anyone have any respect for somebody who says Turk and shit and curses like this? He can't express himself like a normal human being? Could he not have opened the door, went up to the guy and said, hey, could you keep it down? I'm trying to do this video. Hope you don't mind. No offense to you. You're doing your job, but I'd like you to keep it down. People respect people who respect them back. And so rather than treating other people like they're a bunch of assholes, why not realize that not everyone is an asshole like yourself and be nice to them? There's a saying, you catch more flies with honey than you do by gregging your Doucette.
What did he say?
And we've seen him on that podcast where he's interacting, screaming at another man, making fun of his appearance because he has more body fat than he does. All the while pretending to be a multimillionaire and having all the hottest girls chasing after him when in reality, he's paying for this. And rather than buying cars and homes like normal people, he simply rents them out.
How'd we meet? She was walking her dog by this restaurant over by Cipriani.
And so imagine having to lie about how you met a woman. Hey, if you want to meet a woman on a dating service site, an escort site, by all means. But why are you lying about it? You got the money, do what you want. If you want to rent a girl to stay and live with you who barely speaks any English, then hey, by all means. I mean, after all, would she actually want to stay if she understood the nonsense that you've been spewing? And so I think the relationship, it works.
So I jumped up off the table where we were eating. I ran over there. I said, what's up? What are you doing? What's your name? And my Instagram was down at the time, so I couldn't even flex the gram on her.
I couldn't even flex the gram on her. If you have to approach a woman and say how many followers you have on Instagram in order to convince her to want to talk to you, it's over before it started. Men, if you don't already know this, you want your woman to have a genuine sexual desire for you from the beginning. You can't fake or pretend to have a genuine attraction for another human being. And so if she's only dating you for your followers or for your money, and she doesn't actually have the hots for you as a person, it's doomed before it even starts. But Wes Wastson, he doesn't realize this.
And she's like, what are you talking about? Like, no, like she barely speaks English.
And so he's trying to give the illusion that he's an alpha, perhaps a sigma, that he's a man's man, that you can't mess with him. And so is anyone surprised that he sides with Mike Van Wick? I mean, after all, this man, he carries around a purse. You seen this guy? And so perhaps he's flirting with Mike Van Wick. But Wes, Mike Van Wick is perhaps already in a situationship with Fuad Abidan. And so take a number. And so just because you make a video simping for Big Mike Van Wick doesn't mean he's gonna actually like you. But I get it, you went to jail, you're bald and have tattoos just like him, and so you're attracted to him. There's nothing wrong with that. I understand it. And so remember, there's nothing wrong with that. I have nothing against people who are gay, bisexual, and so on. There's nothing wrong with that. And so if he's attracted to Big Mike Van Wick, remember, Mike Van Wick was an IFBB pro. He managed to get 13th out of 15 in a professional bodybuilding competition. And so Wes Wastson, all hopped up on steroids, same as Mike Van Wick, he speaks out against Jeff Nippard.
You pussies are in the comments going, he should press charges. No, he should get pushed by the neck and then get his head stepped on.
Does that make sense, Wes? I mean, understand this. If you break the law, you then become a criminal and you might end up in jail. Something you should be all too familiar with. And seeing as you walk around with the purse and you like picking on men who are smaller than you, you're likely projecting your own insecurities and lashing out at the world because you've been made to do things by other men who are larger than you. And so considering that likely you were in fact bullied, you're now bullying others. And so the cycle continues.
You guys need to know your fucking place before you get put in it. Some people don't give a fuck about the consequences.
And yes, Wes, you're correct. Some people don't give a shit about the consequences, and they'll do whatever they're going to do. But realize this. There are, in fact, consequences for your actions. And so if you don't give a shit about those consequences, you might do horrible things. But then once you're caught, especially in 4K with a video camera proving you in fact did that crime, you then have to pay the repercussions. If you don't care about that, I don't care if I'm going to jail. I'm going to do this anyway. Well, that's your choice. But if you do, in fact, take on that choice, you have to be prepared for the fallout.
You can do anything you want if you don't give a fuck about the consequences. And a lot of you pussies who are online talking shit are going to catch a big old monster on the wrong day.
And so, Wes, when you say the women that you're meeting, it just happened to be that way, that you didn't pay them to do anything, and it comes out that you did, well, you have to pay those consequences. And to the same extent, when you scream at the gardener in this way and people see you doing these things, you can do what you want, you can do that, but then you're painting a picture of the type of person that you are. And if you don't care about that, well, that's fine. But when people then make videos explaining exactly the person that you are, you have to accept those consequences.
Century for 10 years watching people get their heads sawed off.
Were you really? Were you literally in the penitentiary for 10 years?
The worst thing about prison was the Dementors.
And if so, which men took care of you while you were in jail? Who looked after you? In other words, who was your boyfriend when you were in jail?
You can't even just normally fight in most places. You have to cut the motherfucker up. You guys are so f***ing soft, it's disgusting.
And so it's one thing to yap, make it a video from thousands of miles away from the actual person you're talking about. Somebody who's perhaps half your size. But would you be talking this way to someone equal or perhaps a little bit bigger? And remember, the toughest men in the world, they're not the ones that yap the most. They often say nothing. People who run their mouths the most are often the people who are the most scared. They don't expect anyone to actually fight back. They think that by yelling, being intimidating, having a bald head and tattoos, that no one is going to call them out on their bullshit.
Remember how my friends Eric Konepski, Joey Stacks, Tanner, they went up to Mike, and he didn't want any part of it.
And so when Mike Van Wick was confronted by other men who were perhaps his own size, he chimed away. They challenged him to a fight. You want to go outside? And he declined. And so if he was so tough, such a strong man, why didn't he walk outside and fight and settle it like men? And so are you really a big, strong, tough man if the only person you're willing to talk to is somebody who can't defend himself?
There's no way you were even that close unless you were provoking him. It doesn't matter. He didn't come attack you. You were standing there confronting him like you wanted some business.
Jeff never said to him, let's step outside and settle this like men. Jeff never said, I want to fight. Mike Van Wick also never said he wanted to fight. He never said, I'm going to hit you. He never said, I'm going to have a fight with you. He never challenged him to anything. He sucker punched him out of nowhere, like a bitch. If you're going to fight with somebody, at least tell them you're going to do it first.
You should have left, bitch, because you know you're a cop calling, bitch.
He has a purse and he runs around calling other men bitches, pussies, and so on. Dude, you've got a purse.
You should have left the him and known you were too big of a bitch and you were going to call the cops.
And yes, charges have in fact been laid, Wes. But remember this, you said some people don't care about the consequences. Well, if they don't care about the consequences and somebody calls the cops and charges the person, well, you don't care now, do you? That is one thing you need to remember. You may not care about the consequences, but once you're in court, once you're in a jail cell, maybe you'll care about it then. Once you then get out of jail, hopefully reformed, perhaps you'll think twice before doing the same thing again. And so perhaps Wes is simply having a hard time getting it harder than last time. I mean, he's out of jail, he's not around men all the time, so perhaps he's really struggling. Now remember, you can save 15% off by entering code Greg, click the link in the description. And perhaps get off all the testosterone, the steroids. Use natural supplements like turkesterone. Perhaps you've done too many steroids and you need to get off. And so code Greg, 15% off. Remember, there's literally a money back guarantee. If you don't believe that it's going to work, money back guarantee. Click the link in the description, code Greg, 15% off. Subscribe, click the bell button, comment to boost the algorithm. Don't forget to like the video if you liked it. Don't forget to watch one of those two bloops. And of course, cookbooks, training books, coaching plans by me and my team. You have no money, get the free diet and training program. It's close to 50 pages. And until next time, I am out.